We are diving into the transformative power of strategy development in small businesses and uncovering how these entities drive innovation and economic growth in our communities.
How they operate differently from companies that aren't growing so fast. We provide coaching, do workshops, accelerator programs, and transformation programs.
As we delve in the challenges faced by professionals in the 55 to 65 years age group, it's crucial to recognize the wealth of experience they bring to the table.
The people that need to execute the strategy, right? If you're going to actually change your trajectory from a results standpoint, you need the human beings inside the company to probably change their behavior somehow.
Semi-retirement presents a unique opportunity for former executives to redefine their professional lives.
Working with Microsoft was also very inspiring. We didn't do as much strategy development work with them. We were doing more digital marketing training for their resellers. But I would say if I had to choose one, it would be Mitsubishi Chemical Group.
Hello, listeners. Thank you for tuning into the Canadian SME Small Business Podcast. Today's episode is packed with insights you won't want to miss. We are diving into the transformative power of strategy development in small businesses and uncovering how these entities drive innovation and economic growth in our communities. Our guest today is Jesse Hobbs, founder of Demand Metric, a strategy think tank that has revolutionized enterprise planning. Stay tuned for practical strategies and inspirational stories that can propel your business forward. You will want to hear all the valuable insights Jesse has to offer. Let's dive in. Good afternoon, Jesse, and welcome to the Canadian SME Small Business Podcast. How are you doing today?
I'm great. It's great to be here.
It's always a pleasure hosting guests like you. Can you start by sharing more details about you and your organization, Demand Metric, with our audience?
Yeah, of course. So Demand Metric is a research and consulting company. We were founded in 2006. We started out in Gastown, Vancouver, when we first got started. And basically, what we do is research best practices, how growing businesses, right, world-class companies, how they operate differently from companies that aren't growing so fast. We provide coaching, do workshops, accelerator programs, and transformation programs.
Okay, so you you provide the services specifically to medium type of businesses, what kind of businesses you target?
We work with startups right up to the Fortune 50, right?
Okay.
But mid-size enterprise has been sort of our sweet spot over the years. But that being said, we've worked with 8,000 customers. So everyone from Microsoft on the top end and Tesla and Apple and all those guys down to, one person, solopreneurs.
Okay. Jesse, you have highlighted ageism and discrimination among the 55 to 65 age group as a critical issue. It's an area that definitely needs more visibility. Can you discuss some of the common challenges that professionals in this age group face in today's job market?
Yes. If you're 55 years old right now, you're hanging on for dear life to your job, and you're hoping that the management team, the board, whoever, doesn't decide to give you a package, because if you do, and you need to get more income for the next 5, 10, 15 years of your life, it's nearly impossible to get hired at that age, especially in this economy. Right now, everyone's getting laid off, especially if you're a senior executive. They're looking for reasons to cut their costs, and often they need to keep the frontline workers doing the work. And so the first place they go is, can we get away without some, mid to senior leadership? Yeah. So the issue with the ageism is that I think the world just discriminates people of that age. Maybe they think there's more skills around technology in younger generations, perhaps that they're unwilling to learn and learn new technologies or new ways of doing business. But just in my experience, I've probably interviewed more 50 to 60-year-olds than just about anyone else in the world. I think I've probably talked to, 10,000 plus over the last 18 years.
That's a huge number.
Yeah, it's a lot of them. And so I know the realities of what it means to lose your job, get your severance or your buyout or whatever they give you, and then try to go out into the market and get your next gig at that age. It's kind of like your employability is at a peak and then it literally just falls off a cliff. Right. And so that's a real problem out there. But I think there's some great solutions to that problem.
Okay. And what strategies do you think businesses should implement to better support and leverage the talents of this demographic?
Yeah, I think it's just don't try to fight it. There's a lot of wisdom tied up in the age of AI, right? The one thing that the machines can't do quite as well is provide wisdom. what's going to work, what won't work, the judgment calls. That type of experience is invaluable. And so if the organizations are looking to bring the new generation of leaders in, right, these are the millennials, right, and they're going to be taking over senior leadership jobs, and they're taking them from the boomers, kind of, Gen X. So it's don't fight nature, right? It's let those younger people, the late 40s, early 50s people take those jobs, but change your identity from being a senior executive that you've maybe hung on to for the last 20, 30 years and apply it to a new career. So what I suggest to these people, and I've launched a new coaching program to help senior executives make the transition into consulting.
So you have launched your own?
Yeah, I launched this 90 days ago.
Okay.
We blew it up from 0 to 1.1 million in sales in less than 90 days. I think because of the demand, there's a huge desire for these executives to get into a new career, but they don't want to work 100 hours a week to build a business. They don't want to invest, lots of capital and take on a lot of risk. What they really want is to plug into a system, right, where they can immediately start using their skills, their background to help coach and support the next generation of leaders. And so in our experience, we built the world's greatest toolkit of consulting tools and frameworks and playbooks. We pair them up with our brand, our toolkits, but use their experience in their industry and work with the in-house people. So they're not coming in to do the work for an organization as an executive or as a contractor. They're going in to get the people on the team to design and develop the strategy themselves, leveraging the tools that we built here. So it's a new business model. It's also disrupting the traditional strategy consulting paradigm.
What's the name of the program that you have just mentioned, and how can anyone who is listening is interested in learning more about it? They can
Sure.
more
Yeah.
details.
So we call it the Growth Strategy Accelerator. So that's the name of the program. There's 2 levels to it. One is, where we have a group coaching program. People can go in, they can get help from our coaches, use all of our materials. We also have another program called the Think Tank Mastermind. And so that's working with me personally, working with these executives with all of our resource, all of our connections, our leads, our customers, to get them plugged into the right types of opportunities. People want to learn about, what we're doing, all of that. They can find us on YouTube, right, at Demand Metric. They can go to demandmetric.com, and we've got lots of information in there about the programs.
Thank you so much for sharing those insights and information with our audience. I believe understanding these challenges is the first step towards creating a more inclusive workplace. As we delve in the challenges faced by professionals in the 55 to 65 years age group, it's crucial to recognize the wealth of experience they bring to the table. Let's consider how businesses can better harness this untapped potential, fostering a workplace that values diversity in culture and age. Now let's discuss about the strategy consulting model. Moving on to strategy consulting industry, Jesse. You have mentioned that you view it as a broken business model. What led you to this conclusion, and what are the key areas where you think this model fails companies today?
Yeah, I mean, I've just heard from the inside from a lot of executives who buy a lot of strategy consulting that although the strategies are often sound, that they fail to deliver on the results that are expected. And I don't believe it's all like the consulting firm's fault. That's not the issue. It's that between how the organization and the consulting firm approach the problem, it's generating, well, McKinsey says, 70% of transformations fail. That's their own their own research, right? So, is it McKinsey's fault? Is it the company's fault? It doesn't really matter whose fault it is, right? My understanding is this: the people that need to execute the strategy, right? If you're gonna actually change your trajectory from a results standpoint, you need the human beings inside the company to probably change their behavior somehow. Okay, so the failure is in failing to get group behavior change to work.
So you mean to say internal change is very, very important, right?
Well, just if you want different results, you need to do different activities. Right? You need to start doing some things, stop doing some things, maybe continue doing the things working well. But at the end of the day, anyone who wants to get a better result needs to change their activity, right? So if you don't get the result, it's because the activity didn't actually change. And if the activity didn't change, it's likely that there wasn't motivation to do the activity. They didn't understand that they needed to do the activity. They weren't motivated and inspired, maybe. They didn't believe in the activity. They didn't think it was the right thing. So I think there's a big gap between the frontline workers that need to execute strategy, know their role in it, be motivated to do it, energized to go out and do it, and the senior management team who's often working in an ivory tower with the consulting firm. So that's why I think the business model is broken. The consultants will come in, they'll interview everyone, they'll repackage up everyone's insights around what's wrong and how to fix it. They'll share that with the management team. And then when it comes time to roll out the strategy to the staff, they kind of roll their eyes and say, well, we already knew all that and management just hasn't listened to us. And now these are the same people that are supposed to go rush out and attack the market and find ways to grow the business. But I feel like the process of interviewing them, repackaging their ideas, not giving them credit for it, and then telling them what they already kind of knew, it demotivates them in the process.
Right.
So I think the new way, the better way, is instead of trying to get consultants that are usually after the partner leaves, you got this junior team of MBAs from great business schools. We all know, the guys that get hired there. They're good. They're smart people, but they don't necessarily earn the respect of the team members because they haven't been in the industry. They don't know the realities of the job, the market, the customer. So my model is I'm going to take instead executives who have a track record of doing successful turnarounds, successful transformations, growing businesses, entrepreneurs, and I'm going to make them, instead of consultants, coaches. They go and then work with the team and with a grassroots approach, talk to the team about the critical issues. What are the cruxes of the problem? What does senior management need to understand or invest in or change or fix? What issues do we need to get out of our way to unlock growth? So if the team itself, the ones that need to execute the strategy are involved in the design in the first place, A, they're going to understand it. B, they're going to buy into it because they were the ones that formed it in the first place. Okay. And they're going to be able to, send the message around all of their peers in order to make sure that it's communicated clearly. So I think that just the fundamental approach to strategy, the methodology itself around how they do it, I don't think works very well. And I don't think the implementation through a consulting firm with consultants who do it for you is really working out there.
Okay. And just like what innovations or changes do you believe are necessary to revitalize strategic, strategy consulting practices for modern era?
Yeah, I think you just stop doing goals first strategy and you start doing problems first strategy.
Okay, I think I believe rethinking these foundations could indeed transform how companies approach strategic development. And thank you for so much for sharing those thoughts with our audience. Let's discuss about exploring semi-retirement for executives.
Sure.
Semi-retirement is becoming a popular option for former executives looking to balance life and work. It's a fascinating transition, but how do you see semi-retirement evolving as a viable option for executives, and what benefits does it offer for them?
Sure. I mean, I've had a lifestyle business for the past 18 years. I've lived in 5 different countries on 5 different continents. And for me, I didn't wait until retirement to live the life I wanted to have. I designed my business around the lifestyle I wanted to lead. And so I learned that at a very young age. My dad taught me when I was 10 years old, quality of life trumps everything else.
So your dad also was into business?
No, my dad never even finished grade 9. He was a general handyman contractor, builder of homes. He can do anything, but he doesn't know how to use a computer. So he taught me, quality of life was important. And although he wasn't a businessman, he taught me a lot of the most important life lessons. If you're going to do something, do it right the first time, things like that. But ultimately, semi-retirement, I think the reason why that's such an attractive idea is that these executives, they don't want to lose their purpose and their meaning in life. And they're not ready to just go play golf all day every day or go to the beach or, go fishing or whatever their hobbies are. Maybe their spouse doesn't want them around 24 hours a day, right? They need some of that time to still use their brain and make an impact and share their wisdom and knowledge. So semi-retirement also implies that you have an income still. And I think people are living longer. They're being healthier now. They're often being kind of pushed out of the workforce, or at least, they can't go make a $300,000 salary perhaps in the next role. But people that make that kind of money often have the cottage. They put their kids through good schools. Maybe they didn't save as much as they maybe should have, right, for their retirement. And now with the idea that they might live an extra 5 or 10 years from what 20 years ago we used to think we would live, I think there's a lot of people that are really nervous about minimizing their income all of a sudden. And that just kind of stresses them out. So the ticket is, how can you earn the same or more money, but cut your working hours in half? Mm-hmm. And I've got a methodology, a process, a system for doing that. And so I'm excited about the opportunity to help these executives with the ageism discrimination leverage the system, their knowledge, our playbooks, the brand we have to go out and live a great semi-retired lifestyle. It's not too late to own your own business. And you don't have to work 100 hours a week or invest hundreds of thousands of dollars in capital to get that going. if you can plug into something that's already working.
Okay. And what advice would you give to the executives, like considering this path, like especially in planning their semi-retirement phase?
I think, first of all, they need to know who they want to help, right? So are there a couple of key industries that they've been involved in for a long time? At what level in the organization do they want to do the coaching or consulting? They want to do it at the corporate level, at a division level, at a function level. So they got to get really, really clear on who it is they want to serve. Okay, that's the first thing. The second is to really understand, what does winning look like? Are you trying to make $1 million a year? Are you happy making an extra $100,000 a year working a few days? So getting really clear on how you're going to keep score, right, in your
That's
new
very,
career.
very important.
Yeah, it's very important, I think. And it's wrong to assume that everyone wants to make a lot or a little. Everyone has their own personal goals, right? So it's, who do you want to serve? How much do you want to earn? What is the business model you want to use? You want to do workshops? Do you want to do, full-blown consulting projects where you're getting deeply involved? Do you want to work certain parts of the year? Do you want it to be seasonal? And I think the most important one that all my clients are most concerned about is, where are you going to find clients? How are you going to generate business for yourself? And I think there's a lot of people out there, like, once I'm in there, I'm great. I just don't know how to get myself in the door. And I feel uncomfortable maybe promoting myself, selling my own services. They maybe never done that before, right? When you work at IBM, it's pretty easy to get a meeting. But if you're all of a sudden Joe Blow, who used to work at IBM, and you don't have IBM on your business card, you might be a little bit nervous about, how do I tap my personal network or get into some other large enterprises to do work? So that's where we can certainly help them.
Yeah, and I think a lot of, as you said, like a lot of people will be, they might be shy, and they might be good communicator, but they are unable to express themselves, to promote their own business.
Right.
Yeah, so that's where you help them out.
We help them. I mean, a lot of it is just eliminating some false beliefs they have about. You don't need to be self-promotional and selling on social media, for example, to demonstrate expertise, right? I did a training session on this today. And so a big part of it is helping them understand how to appear as an expert and draw clients into them, right? And most people don't know the first thing about marketing themselves, right? And so we go through a bit of a process to help them understand, what are some tactics they can use, what are some channels they can do. Things like podcasts are a great place to start, right, to demonstrate their expertise. But yeah, they need their own personalized marketing plan.
Right. I believe, Jesse, understanding these options can really empower many to make informed decisions about their post-career life and confidence. Semi-retirement presents a unique opportunity for former executives to redefine their professional lives. How can seasoned leaders continue to contribute their expertise flexibly and impactfully? This could be a game changer for many who are not ready to step back completely but are looking for a new kind of work-life balance. Semi-retirement offers former executives a chance to redefine their professional lives, allowing them to contribute their expertise flexibly and impactfully. It's a game changer for those seeking a new work-life balance. We have had some great insights so far. Let's take a short break. Stay tuned. We have more to explore with Jesse Hobbs. We will be right back.
You dreamt big. You made the leap. You and your "we're not stopping at small" business. Doesn't matter you've never done it before. You unlock those problems. You adapt to change. You learn to evolve. You're pioneers in challenging times, finding your own frontiers. Wherever you e-commerce, UPS is with you. So nothing is going to hold you back.
Nope.
Constant Contact delivers the marketing tools your small business needs to keep up, excel, and grow. Constant Contact, helping the small stand tall.
Welcome back to the Canadian SME Small Business Podcast. We have engaged with Jesse Hobbs, founder of Demand Metric. Before the break, we discussed the challenges faced by older professionals. Now, let's shift our focus to collaborative partnerships. Now, let's discuss about collaborative partnerships. Collaboration is often key in business. You have worked with some notable names across various industries. Who have you worked with that significantly influence your approach to business and strategy?
Yeah, I would say working with my current, client, Mitsubishi Chemical Group, has been probably the most instructive. I'm under NDA, so I can't get into much detail, but I will say that I am working on a special project, a book about strategy, and I've been heavily influenced by several of the executives there in my time. I've been working with them for just under 2 years now. I've been around the world 3 times, Tokyo and Dusseldorf and Charlotte many, many times. So Mitsubishi Chemical Group, it's a large Japanese company, publicly traded, and had a CEO change while I was there. So I've learned a lot from them. Working with Microsoft was also very inspiring. We didn't do as much strategy development work with them. We were doing more digital marketing training for their resellers. But I would say if I had to choose one, it would be Mitsubishi Chemical Group.
Okay. And how these collaborations and partnerships that you have mentioned shape the solutions you develop at Demand Metric?
Yeah, I mean, I look at every relationship as a collaboration and a long-term thing, right? Maybe there's a way to find, you and I to work together somehow.
Right.
So I believe in building great relationships with really smart people. So for me, it could be partnering with software companies. So some of these executives, beyond just doing workshops and other consulting projects, they may want to implement a software and they might get a revenue share from that software being implemented. So there's lots of ways to look at partnering, but for me, it's always who's the customer, what are their needs, and how can we work together to add value to that customer, create a win all around. And so the main thing is making sure that everyone's getting paid and getting value. Otherwise, the partnerships tend to fall apart.
Right. It's clear that the right partnership can lead to groundbreaking approaches and solutions. Now let's move forward with discussing about the personal business journey. You have had a remarkable journey in the world of strategy and consulting, Jesse. Could you share with our audience more about your personal story and how it led you to found Demand Metric?
It's kind of funny. I was about 15 years old. I wanted to go to the Richard Ivey School of Business. That was my dream goal in life. I told my mom I'd be a millionaire in my 20s. She said, maybe, you've always been a pretty hyperactive kid, so it's possible. But that was my goal. And so I worked really hard in high school.
So to be a millionaire by the age of 20?
Well, in my 20s, I said. It was before I was 30 for sure.
Yeah.
So that was my goal. And I grew up in London, Ontario. So we had the business school right there at Western. And I was probably the only 15-year-old flipping through university brochures of business programs. But I knew growing up in a really poor household that no matter what was going to happen, I was going to own my own business and I was going to have lots and lots of money. Okay. And unfortunately, I didn't get pre-accepted after high school. There was a pre-acceptance program. You needed like a 96 average to get in there. I had like a 92, wasn't enough. So I didn't get pre-accepted. So then I took a year off actually. And I went to Western in just a general arts, philosophy program. And the plan was to apply after 2 years, right? And so I got a job at a Canadian company called Infotech Research Group. I don't know if you're familiar with them. They bought the Masonic Temple in downtown Toronto a few years back. But I got a job working there. They were a startup. Their CEO actually went to Ivy and was an instructor there. So I thought I was a shoo-in. I was, working with an Ivy company and an instructor and all this. And I applied after my 2 years because I was working full-time and going to school part-time. And lo and behold, I didn't get accepted again. So I was like really distraught. It was my dream goal is to get into this business school. And I talked to the CEO of Infotech and I said, look, I thought your reference letter was going to get me in. I had pretty good grades. I got all these extracurriculars, the Toastmasters, the Dale Carnegie, all this stuff. And he said, the bar is really high. And so I said, I just really want to go work at, back then it was Capgemini or McKinsey. And he told me, and I still remember this to this day, he's like, you're not really McKinsey material. Mm. And I was offended at that point in my life. I was like 20 years old and I didn't understand what he meant. But I was a kid from the wrong side of the tracks and I was great in sales. And he said, McKinsey guys are like quarterback of the football team, generally maybe come from a business family, something like that. That's just not you. And it took me a long time to realize that I'm really glad that I failed to get into the business school. All my friends went to business school. They all made partner in different consulting firms. For nearly 20 years, I've been able to run my own business, and I did become a millionaire when I was 25. So it wasn't the path for me. But what I will say to others that want to get into consulting is think really hard about what you want. There is another alternative route. You don't need to go to one of the big four. If you're a smart person, I dedicated my life to building the world's best set of consulting tools, probably because I had a chip on my shoulder for not getting into business school, not getting into McKinsey, and having my boss tell me that. And so instead, I generated $30 million for myself, and now I teach other people how to get into the business and do it independently. I'm actually working with some IB kids right now to convince them, don't go down the path of bureaucracy. Consider getting into business for yourself. It's much, much more rewarding.
Your story is very interesting. At the same time, it's very inspiring.
Thank you. I appreciate that.
Jesse, what were some pivotal moments in your career that helped shape your current path?
Yeah, I would say, obviously the experience at Infotech, working in sales, that was huge. Starting in sales when I was 9 years old, knocking on doors, selling flowers was pretty key. I think I moved to Panama when I was about 27, just completely decided to leave Canada and go live abroad. So that was interesting. It taught me that I could live the 4-hour work week, if you're familiar with Tim Ferriss's work, and just basically live a semi-retired lifestyle, but in my 20s. And so, reading that book was a huge inspiration. Moving to Medellin, Colombia, and meeting just Colombian people in general and how they look at life and how happy they are and their values was very, very formative. My wife is from Colombia. And I would say building and failing with a software, like a SaaS business inside of Demand Metric. We launched a product. It was kind of like Asana or Trello, if you're familiar with project management tools. We thought we had this great idea. We'd build it with playbooks in it and all the tools and things. And, I wouldn't say COVID was the reason why we shut it down. We did about 30 or 40 implementations. And we were giving free consulting. We didn't want to be in consulting. We wanted to sell renewable revenue in software, better multiples, better exit, all of that. But in order to get people and groups to change their behavior, to use a tool collaboratively to do their project management work, you had to change how they thought about work in the first place, and then how they felt about the systems and the new processes. And was this just a management tool, or is this something that could actually help drive efficiency into their day? So we learned how to do this group behavior change, and we did it for nothing to try to get our software sticky. And although the software business failed, the skill set of learning how to change groups' behavior stuck. And that's, I think, the most valuable skill in the world. And so sometimes when you're an entrepreneur, you start a business and it doesn't work out for one reason or another. But there's always a silver lining. You're always learning from your experience. And so we pivoted after that experience and crashing the software into developing the model where we're teaching executives how to transition, showing them the skills they need to have to do group behavior change and add a lot of value to large enterprises.
Okay. You just now mentioned you failed in the software business. After failing in the software business, how did you keep yourself motivated to move forward with other business ideas?
Yeah, I'm not going to lie to you, SK. There was definitely some dark days there. It's not easy to throw in the towel after you spend millions of dollars on a project. But it was, I think, my family. My friends, my partners, they believed in me. They said, look, you've always landed on your feet. The good news is we always had a few other businesses on the go. So we were never broke. We had to accept that we failed and we had to shut something down and start a new pivot, new project. And, for me, it was, I just went kind of inward. I started studying a lot. I started looking at other entrepreneurs. I think in the past, year and a half, I've probably read over 100 books. I read several of the books that are sitting right there. And I got coaching, I got mentors, and I built up my self-confidence, my knowledge around what assets and resources we had. And the guy over there in your book, Dan Martell, I went out and saw him in Kelowna, and he said, look, you've been an entrepreneur for 18 years. Mm-hmm. You've run 4 or 5 companies inside of one little business here. You're an amateur. He's like, if you want to be a pro, find the one thing that you can copy and paste 1,000 times, build that up and scale it, and then diversify. Don't diversify to build a business. And so I had to make some tough decisions. I literally shut down 4 of my divisions, cut them all, and cannibalized the whole thing in order to launch this brand new business that was unproven, right? This coaching model for executives that want to transition, stop trading their time for money and build a lifestyle business. And we just went all in. We learned how to do advertising. We've leveled up our knowledge in sales and marketing and all different areas that we thought we were already pretty solid in. So I think it was really humility was really the secret there. At the same time, my father-in-law was mentoring me around the power of now and Eckhart Tolle's work and just eliminating fear, I would say, more than anything else. So when I got a hold of the ego, stopped having fear and anxiety and living in the present, and started just executing every single day what I needed to do to make this new business work, it just started to work. And so every single day got better, and we were learning, and it felt like being in a fun startup again. And after being in your own business for 18 years, you can go through periods where you're more or less motivated and interested in your own business.
Right.
And Dan Martell's advice is build a business you love to own, not something that you just can't wait to exit. And so we did that from the beginning with those principles in mind. And so I'd say coaching has been really critical, humility, staying present and eliminating fear. And anytime I get an anxious thought, I recognize it, I park it, and I focus on what I need to do right now to move forward.
Thank you so much for sharing those insights. And as you mentioned, you read a lot of books. What are the top 3 books that you recommend to other entrepreneurs?
Wow, that's a tough question. If I could tell you 20, I would. But if I had to boil it down to 3, for entrepreneurs in particular, definitely buy back your time. Right, Dan Martell's new book is great. I love Secrets of the World Class by Steven Siebold. I think that's outstanding. And if you're in the consulting or any sort of knowledge-based business, Expert Secrets by Russell Brunson will help you learn how to sell one-to-many at scale and change your marketing from needing a big marketing budget and a large sales team to a founder articulating the problems in the world that they see, why they think they've got a unique solution to solving those problems. And ultimately, all of our sales now are sold by video before they get to a sales call. So Expert Secrets, and in particular, the chapter, The Perfect Webinar, has been a real key to my success.
Okay, we will definitely add these books details in the podcast description
Sure.
to make it easier for listeners to get access to it. Before we wrap up, Jesse, what is your key piece of advice to aspiring entrepreneurs and business leaders?
Yeah, there's some people out there that will tell you that they'll believe it when they see it, but yet they believe in God. And I always ask them, are you the kind of person that will believe it when they see it, or are you the kind of person that will believe it until you see it? And if you want to be an entrepreneur, you need to be firmly in the camp of, I will believe it until I see it. Okay? You only really fail if you don't learn from things that don't work out, or you quit. And so you need to really have 3 things. You need to have a vision that's extremely strong and clear and be able to visualize a future that you can attain. The second thing is you need to believe so strongly that that vision is just a matter of time before it becomes a reality. And you need to maintain belief that you will achieve that vision 100% of the time. And what I've learned, I grew up and I like to have a good time with my friends and, party and everything else. What I learned is that most entrepreneurs won't actually achieve their vision because they'll self-sabotage. They'll start getting closer to it and they'll find a way to, celebrate or, drink or do whatever they do that gets them off track, go on a vacation and then get into a slump or something. You need to maintain consistency. You need to have a high degree of self-discipline. And I think that the way you get self-discipline is you need to realize you're worthy of the success that you want to have. And if you don't actually have the self-worth, you won't have the self-discipline, you'll give up too early. And so it comes down to believing in yourself and just not quitting until you make it.
Right. So there are 2 things you want, like you highlighted, consistency and self-discipline are very, very important.
I wouldn't start a business if you don't have a high degree of either of those 2 things. Certainly more important than intelligence and creativity.
Yeah. Is there anything else you would like to add, Jesse?
Yeah, just for any young people out there or people in their mid-50s alike, entrepreneurship is the only way to live, in my opinion. If you don't work for yourself, you don't have the experience of calling your own shots at least one time in your life, it's a life experience worth having. And you don't have to take on a bunch of risk. You can find other people's business model and plug into them. Franchises are a great option. Coaching programs can be really helpful there. And just do it. Just give it a try. You got nothing to lose. You got one life to live. And the benefits are so outstanding that you at least got to give it a try one time.
Thank you so much, Jesse. It was a pleasure hosting you today, and thank you for sharing your invaluable insights and experiences with our audience.
Thanks, SK. I really appreciate you having me on.
Thank you.
Thanks so much.
Thank you, Jesse, for sharing your insightful discussions and rich experiences with us today. Your perspective on ageism, the evolving nature of strategy consulting, and semi-retirement are invaluable, especially in today's fast-changing business environment. To our listeners, we hope you found this episode as enlightening as we did. A huge thank you to our partners: exclusive banking partner RBC, exclusive shipping partner UPS, exclusive accounting software partner Zero, exclusive email partner Constant Contact, and our exclusive hospitality partner IHG Hotels and Resorts for their unwavering support. Their support is crucial in bringing this important conversation to our audience. Don't forget to subscribe to the Canadian SME Small Business Magazine by visiting our website CanadianSME.ca to catch up all our past episodes and stay updated with the latest in the SME sector. For more episodes, visit smbpodcast.ca.